rare. That's a French 664. That's worth about £2,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it stable though? Yeah. Oh, it's nice.
We had these stands. We had the stands right.
Why are you filming me? Content, mate, content. Not that I recognise now.
The wonderful phrasing you can get from airwaves.
There's an app which I don't know if I've got it on here. Roland Radio. Nothing to do with me.
Because this has been a long time in the making to get this next guest, and I know we've got a lot of people here who are very excited to meet him. We are celebrating 40 years of the Amstrad. I don't know if you've noticed, we're celebrating 40 years of the Amstrad CPC, and so what an amazing thing to have. We've got the man behind it himself, Mr. Roland Perry is here. Make some noise. Keep it coming, come on. So Roland,
Yeah, hello.
40 years of the CPC. I think you've found yourself going to a lot of talks and conferences and conventions this year. What's that been like to realise the amount of love that's out there for this humble machine?
I think it's taught me a lot about which aspects people like, what parts of the story people are interested in, and it's been a delight. I've been travelling, I won't say all over the world, but travelling here, there and everywhere. This is probably about the 7th or 8th convention like this I've been to in the last 6 months.
And have you been surprised over the years about the ongoing enthusiasm, or is it something which you've noticed has got bigger and bigger all the time?
In fact, in the UK, it's been a very slow burn. Okay, I wanted to do something like this for the 35th, but people just didn't seem interested for some reason. Whereas in Spain, where the Amstrad was the most popular home computer for all sorts of reasons, they've been doing retro events like this for about 10 years, 10 or 12 years. And retro events like this happen not just for computers, they happen for old cars and vinyl records and things like that, because people get to a certain age where they can now afford to indulge themselves in reliving their childhood when they were 10, 11, 12 years old. And one day, one of the people who dropped in to see us was Bob Watkins, who brought this thing here, which is the kind of version 0.1 of the 464 circuit board. And what people need to know is that this box was something that Amstrad designed about a year before this.
Yeah.
Because they decided they wanted this and they knew what it needed to look like, except it didn't have a circuit board in it. It had everything else. So they wanted someone to make a circuit board. So they commissioned these guys, gave them about 6 months to design an 8-bit home computer with BASIC from scratch, which is impossible. So it's not the fault of the two guys who failed to produce it. It's just that the timescale was impossible. So they then came to us and said, well, can you rescue this project? Oh, by the way, the timescale is now 3 months.
Do you remember the first time you met Lord Sugar, and what was your impressions of him at the time?
Well, this is well documented in many of the sort of biographies and autobiographies and magazine articles over the years. I went and assembled a team of people who I thought could deliver the product. We then had a meeting at Amstrad headquarters, which is in Garmin Road in Tottenham, and we went there and we met Bob Watkins, and sat in the corner was this little chap. And as my friend Medj, the hardware design, said, well, he noticed this chap must be the boss, because when he started talking, everybody else stopped talking. We literally just got off a plane from the Far East, scouting for other products. But you couldn't scout for a product like this in the Far East because nobody was doing it. The only possible Far Eastern equivalent of this would have been an MSX machine. Yeah. Okay, and that's quite, they were okay, but they weren't spectacular, and it would have taken a year to turn a white label MSX machine into something that would go in there. So that's the first time I met him in that meeting there, and he's always been the most honest, straightforward, decent person to deal with. Yeah. He says what he wants. If you say you can do it, he says go ahead, and then you go off and do it.
One of the things that famously Clive Sinclair wasn't really taken by the gaming side of the spectrum, and it sort of took him by surprise when it happened. Was that kind of hardwired into the approach at Amstrad that this was a games machine, and was it initially well supported by the software houses?
Well, one of the sort of important features of the development project wasn't just to produce a circuit board to go inside, but it was to create an industry producing games for it. And the original decree was that there should be 50 games available by the time it was in the shops. Launch. No, not launch, when it was in the shops. Okay, so the launch was at Easter, it was in the shops from June. And the idea was that we'd organised software houses, obviously some people with Ocean t-shirts on, companies like that, to convert some of their games. 90% were conversions rather than new games. And so we had to build up this team of people who would encourage software houses to convert their games to a computer that wasn't in the shops yet. So they had to be convinced that it really was going to be in the shops. And one of the things, I brought some of these posters up on here, so the top one on the left there is a manual which we gave to software developers, that's just a cover page of it, that said this is how this computer works. Therefore, anything we can do to help you design your, convert your games, or to port your games from the Sinclair or the Commodore 64, and we'll give you every help we can. And the other part of the help, of course, was for those software houses to give them a prototype machine, which we hand-built, because it was long before the production line was started. So there were 50 grey system units, almost identical to that. I mean, 99% the same as that. But the only difference is they had little labels stuck on the back rather than this raised writing on them. And so we built 50, we were supposed to build 50 of them, but some of the bits and pieces didn't work, so we ended up cannibalising them and building about 45. And they're the grey ones, which I noticed you've got some pictures of which I don't know how many survive.
Do you remember some of those games coming in and, them saying, okay, have a look at this, what do you think? Do you remember those coming in and what your impressions were of some of those launch titles?
Well, the first two games we had were written or converted by Indiscomp in Spain from their existing titles. So one was Roamed on the Ropes and Roamed in the Caves. So they were the first two games that we saw. Harrier Attack, I think, was the third one. And so we tended to use Harrier Attack as the machine to demonstrate to journalists and whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's an easier game to play than the two Indiscom games.
Yeah.
So you want to give, if somebody's going to review a computer, don't give them a game that's almost impossible to play.
Yeah.
So you give them one that's kind of easier to play. So we used Harrier Attack.
Was there ever anything with the development of the CPC that you thought this could delay us? This could be the thing that stops us meeting that deadline of the 3 months. Was there anything that was particularly?
That's an interesting question.
Thank you.
I think probably everything. And there's always, again, there's a chart, which is the middle one on that pillar there, which is my original. That I did within about a week of taking on the project. And it's a critical path analysis, and it shows the development pathways of the hardware design, software design, the what I call the frilly stuff design, which is things like instruction books and manuals and that sort of thing, and welcome tape. It has to have a welcome tape in it. So what you have to do is you can't run a welcome tape on a hardware that doesn't yet exist. So you have to get the hardware going first, then you can send somebody else off to write the basic, and then somebody else to write the welcome tape. And so it all happens in parallel. And any one thing on that chart not working would push the deadline out. Except we weren't allowed to push the deadline out because, and this is what eventually was the demise of so many homegrown computer companies, is if you've got your computer in the shops in October and November, people buy it for Christmas. You get it in the shops by January, February, nobody's interested. It was a young lady called Karen who did the graphics for all the games. But before that, she was doing graphics for other products. So we kind of borrowed these people. Yeah. So we're borrowing the talents of about 10 or a dozen other people in Amstrad. So altogether, it probably probably 30, 40 people were involved in it in one way or another. And then on the bottom one on that pillar there is some of the team that were involved. So you've got Grumpy Drawers in the middle there, there's me, there's Bob Watkins, on the bottom right there's Medge, top there's Richard Clayton from Locomotive, on the left William Pole. So we're just a team. But my job was to whip them all into shape and make sure they're all doing the right thing at the right time. Yeah. And then when they got a bit stuck, to give them a bit of a hand on it. Because I could have done the whole project myself. It would take me 10 years. So if you want to do it in 6 months, you need the help of 20 other people.
Well, it works, and one of the things that, I don't know if anyone said this to you before, but there is something about the CPC, which it's kind of built like a tank, because you can literally have it in your loft for 20 years. You can imagine all the winters and summers, bring it down, plug it in, it works. How did you do that?
Well, I think that's just down to, that's the product, procuring the components. We're just procuring the same components that previously you'd have put in transistor radios and colour television, things like that. And you wouldn't necessarily, if you had a cassette tape recorder in your attic and you brought it down after 30 years, you wouldn't necessarily expect it to have expired in some way. You expect it to just plug in and work. So if you use the same kind of grade of components in a computer, then they do mainly seem to just plug in and work.
Well, today was Roland at the Norbreck, and we're standing room only on this, and quite right too, for the man that created the legend. Show your appreciation, please, for Roland Perry.
was actually going to move out of the way, but since, hello, everyone, viewers of Retro or Bust, Norbreck here, and I was going to move out of the way, but he decided to film me instead. And I just stood on my Expo thing. So, make Amstrad great again.
I doubt they'll have Jurassic Park 2. Can never find that game anywhere.